There are some misconceptions when it comes to making an Alfredo sauce, and I'm gonna explain what a true Alfredo is, and then I'm gonna break all the rules and make a really delicious chicken Alfredo right in the Ninja Foodi. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today we are gonna make a super easy chicken fettuccine Alfredo right in the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker. Now I'm using the 6.5 quart, but you could use the 8 quart, the 5 quart, or your Instant Pot. But you do need a pressure cooker for this recipe because we are going to pressure cook everything together, which makes it super, super easy. This is a 1-pot meal. It is creamy, it is rich, it is delicious. You're gonna love it. And I break all the rules of making Alfredo by doing it this way. But trust me, it's delicious. So what is an Alfredo sauce? An Alfredo sauce originally is simply butter with a well-aged grated Parmesan cheese that is tossed with pasta and some of the pasta water, which creates a sauce. So really, there's no cream in Alfredo sauce. None, zip, zilch. But we tend to think of it as this creamy white sauce with cream. So today I'm going to use some cream. I'm also going to use some other ingredients that are not traditional in an Alfredo sauce. But I want you to know, if you want to make a completely traditional Alfredo sauce without cream, without any of the other ingredients that I'm using, you absolutely can by following the same technique. You just don't add in the cream at the end and don't add in the peppers and the spinach, okay? So it's really, really easy. You could do it any way you want, but this way is, oh, it's so good and it's so fast. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is to get some of the ingredients into the bottom of the pot, and then we will layer our pasta noodles. So let me go ahead and get the chicken broth out of the way for a second and let you know how I'm doing it. And of course, you don't have to do it this way. You could do it your way. But I'm using a half of a vidalia onion that I've diced just in about a 1/4-inch dice. And when you're done at the end and you're serving it, there's no texture left to these onions. So it's not like it's gonna be chunky. It is a really smooth, creamy Alfredo. And oh my gosh, it's so delicious. And I just dump those in. We don't need to saute them or anything, okay? We're just dumping them in and they give just a delicious flavor. The next thing I'm adding in are 6 garlic cloves that have been peeled and the ends cut off, but they're whole. I'm not smashing them or anything because we don't want an overpowering garlic flavor, but it does add another dimension. Do you have to add it? Absolutely not. All right, 6 garlic cloves. Now, this one is really not traditional at all, these little mini peppers. So I was just kind of making up something on the fly, and I knew it would be eventually an Alfredo, but I had some of these little peppers that I needed to use up, and I thought, I love them, I'm throwing them in there, even if they don't make it in the end recipe, which I never thought they would. But they are so wonderful. Again, not a texture thing, but just a little bit of a red going through the Alfredo at the end. It's just lovely, and the flavor is fantastic. Do you have to use them? Absolutely not. And if you're wondering what they are before they're cut up, they are these little mini peppers that I get. And so instead of buying, a large red bell pepper or yellow or orange, I just get these little bags. They last a lot longer in my experience, and I just cut them into rounds. And I love adding them to tons of different foods. I mean, they're just fantastic. And this is about 6 of those little peppers. Or if you wanted to get a bell pepper, just get, 1 or 2 bell peppers and then thinly slice them. So we're just gonna put those on the bottom of the pot. Now for our pasta. So I'm using fettuccine, which is traditional. You could use linguine in this recipe, and I don't think you'd need to adjust the times that much. However, if you're gonna go to a spaghetti or an angel hair, you are gonna want to adjust your times. And I will go over that in the written post and give you my suggestions. All right, so we all know we've probably made pasta a million times in the Ninja Foodi or the Instant Pot, and we always break it in half. But I absolutely said no. I'm not breaking it in half because part of what I love about an Alfredo, a fettuccine Alfredo, is the twirl of the noodles. I'm not giving that up for short noodles. So I said, well, what happens if I just clip the tips off? So that's what I do, and it works fantastically. Now, this is the most important part of the recipe, okay? Absolutely the most important part. So definitely don't skip this, okay? You can break them in half, that's no problem. Okay, no problem, you can do that if you want. But what I do is just clip off about 1 inch, and I do it right into the pot because I'm not gonna throw away those noodles. They're perfectly fine. But now I've got the perfect size that will fit into my pot. You only wanna get a tiny amount, like maybe if you squeeze it together, it's about the size of a dime, and this is where it's really important. And you're gonna lay them across the bottom of the pot and spread them out, okay? Just spread them out. And we're gonna do that with 8 ounces of fettuccine. I've also tested the recipe as a double recipe, and there are some changes you need to make. So for that, I will go over in my written post as well. You can grab the recipe on my website, which is thesaltedpepper.com. All right, so now we're gonna go the opposite way. So we're crisscrossing these noodles, and we're keeping them as far apart as we can. Otherwise, they tend to clump together. So we're gonna go like this, and if you run out of room, go back the other way. Just keep fanning them and crisscrossing them. All right, and I do small amounts at a time just because it's easier to get them spread out evenly. It's also easier to just clip them with the scissors. There we go. All right, so now it looks like we've got a nice little web here of our fettuccine noodles, and now we're gonna put in our chicken. Now the chicken that I'm using is chicken breast, but you could use any kind of chicken. You could even skip this part and add some shrimp at the end, okay? So this is really customizable for how you like it. But I'm using 1 large chicken breast, which is probably about 10 ounces of chicken. I think that's fine in this recipe. But if you wanted to up it to 1.5 pounds of chicken, you certainly can. That is not going to make any difference. I season the chicken with 1/2 teaspoon of fine grind sea salt and 1/4 teaspoon of just black pepper. The black pepper is also optional. It doesn't really show up that much in the finished product, so it still looks creamy and white. I like the flavor. Totally up to you, okay? Totally up to you. All right, so we're gonna spread the chicken out on top. Now, what happens if you just put it all in one lump, you know, just like dump it in, the chicken does not cook evenly and it tends to stick together and it just doesn't work as well. So definitely spread it out on top of the pasta here. All right, there we go. And then the last ingredient before we go under pressure is some butter. This is 4 tablespoons of butter, and the second to the last ingredient. 4 tablespoons of butter, just sit it on top, okay? Don't worry about anything else. Now we've got our liquid. Now I'm using 2 cups of chicken stock, but you could, if you wanted to skip the chicken and make this vegetarian, just use a vegetarian stock. 2 cups is what you want. We will not be completely covering our noodles in this recipe, but it works fine, okay? And I'll explain that in a little bit. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and pour this in. That looks good. Then we are gonna go under pressure for 2 minutes. So turn the valve in the back to seal, hit the pressure, high is what we want, and we're gonna take the time to 2 minutes and hit start. It's probably gonna take, 10 to 12 minutes to build the pressure. We will go under pressure for 2 minutes and do an immediate release, okay? All right, so after the 2-minute pressure cook time, we did an immediate release, and now the pin is down so I can open up the lid. Now, if you are making a double batch, you're gonna change those instructions a little bit. So please refer to the written post in my on my website for that. If you're using the 5-quart and doing this amount, you're perfectly fine. But you are gonna make some changes too, so check the recipe out. I'll give all those instructions in there. All right, now when you open up the pot, you're gonna look at it and kind of say, ugh, that doesn't look good. Do not worry about it, okay? We're gonna fix it all up. It's gonna be absolutely gorgeous. So go ahead and turn on your sear saute. You can do it on high or you can do it on medium, whichever you feel comfortable with, it's fine. You're gonna see that the noodles are undercooked. That is on purpose, okay? Because we want them to finish cooking when we add in the cheese and the little bit of cream. So right now what you wanna do, because you'll see it's like a big old clump here, and you're gonna say, oh my gosh, this is gonna be ruined. It isn't, I promise you. Just break them up, loosen them up. They are not cooked together to the point where they're gonna just be a clump because they still need to cook longer. And they're gonna cook under the sear saute. And this will allow for the noodles to stay al dente. If you wanted your noodles a little bit more, just a little bit softer, that's how you like them, increase your pressure cook time to 3 minutes, or also you can do a longer natural release. All right, so those are the choices there. Okay, so now we're gonna let this come to a boil. You can also see we've got a good amount of liquid in the bottom. Again, don't worry, the noodles are gonna start to absorb that as they cook. So now what I do is just start to add in the cheese. I don't add in the cream quite yet, but I add in the cheese so it can melt and start to create the sauce. The cheeses that I'm using, again, we're breaking rules here. You could use all Parmesan or you could use all the Italian blend. You can make it however you want it. It is your chicken fettuccine Alfredo. So make it how you like it and it will be perfectly delicious. But I'm using 1 cup of a pre-shredded, which I don't always do, but this works really well in the recipe, pre-shredded Italian blend. So it's like Asiago, provolone, little mozzarella, little Parmesan. So it works really great, and it just gives a wonderful flavor. So I'm gonna just go ahead and sprinkle that over on top. You might see it start to clump up, don't worry about it. And then a 1/2 cup of finely grated Parmesan. I do this myself, and I really recommend it to get a block and grate your own. We're gonna put that in now. Now we just stir a little bit. So take some tongs and just kind of move everything around. And it looks like the cheese is just gonna be gloppy and gooey and icky. And you're gonna say, Louise, you failed me. But trust me, okay? Just keep letting it simmer and cook until you get the noodles just about done, which takes maybe 3 to 5 minutes, if that. Now, if you didn't want to add the cream, you could add more cheese and more butter. That's fine. There's tons of ways to do this, but it's so good and so easy. All right, that looks good to me. So what I'm looking for here on the noodles is you'll see that they're a darker tan in areas that they're not cooked. And as they cook, they kind of lighten up, and we look really good right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat down. I'm gonna take the heat down to medium now. I'm gonna add in the cream. And that is a 1/2 cup of cream. And now it looks really, really, really soupy. And you're gonna still think I failed you. But I didn't, okay? Promise. All right, so once that's all incorporated and all of those noodles are down in the cream sauce and all that cheese is melted and blended in, we can add in our spinach. I use 4 to 6 ounces. Well, this is 8 ounces, but I'll just put in it until I feel like not putting it in anymore. Because it cooks down to nothing, really. So probably about 4 ounces will be good. And if I want to add more, I can add more later. I don't worry about measuring that. So that's probably about, 3 cups. Now fold in the spinach if you choose to use it. If you don't want to use the spinach, don't worry about it. It's perfectly fine. You could even use broccoli if you like that better. Just cut those florets really, really small. So get all of the spinach kind of underneath of the noodles. And then we're going to close the lid. All right, that looks good. Turn this off. And just close the lid. Close the lid for, 5-10 minutes, however long you want it to. That's gonna thicken the sauce. Noodles are gonna completely cook perfectly. This is a great time to put the garlic bread in or make up your salad. This will stay piping hot for quite some time. You could even put it on the keep warm, but keep in mind, it will thicken, quite rapidly. So just keep an eye on it. If you need to thin it out a little bit more, add a little bit more cream or a little butter, a little cheese, whatever you wanna do. And that's it. Now, if you wanted to add shrimp instead of the chicken, you would add the shrimp when I added the spinach because they cook so fast. So you'd want to use thawed shrimp that's already peeled and throw it in, make sure the shrimp is underneath the pasta, and the heat will cook it perfectly in these next 5 to 10 minutes. So it's been about 5 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and check and see if it's thick enough now. It's really thickened up quite a bit. Looks really good. Now let's just, oh yeah. See? Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's just gorgeous. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And it will thicken up even more, but I'm ready to go ahead and put it on my plate. I don't need a whole lot, because I've already made this so many times. Make sure I get a piece of chicken. Yep, I got a piece of chicken there. And let me grab a spoon because I want to get some of this delicious sauce. Oh, looks amazing. Oh my gosh, that looks so good. All right, there we go. Now, totally optional, but I go ahead and grate a little bit more of Parmesan cheese on top, because that's how I like it. You could do cracked black pepper if you wanted. You could do little red pepper flakes if you wanted a little bit of spice. So totally, this is your Alfredo. All right, here we go. Oh, it looks so good. I mean, really. And now for the best part. You can twirl the noodles. All right, here it goes. This is delicious. The noodles are perfectly cooked. I mean, perfectly cooked. And I don't like mushy noodles. I don't. This is perfect. All right, let's get the chicken here. It is so tender. And that's not always the case with chicken in a pressure cooker. I do not see or taste, well, I mean, the flavor's there, but I mean, I don't see or I'm not biting into any onions, so they are gone. There are a little bit of peppers here, which I just got one in this bite, which is a little big here, and a little bit of spinach. Perfect for any time, like weeknight, weekend, special occasion. It's a beautiful dish. Hands down, the best chicken fettuccine Alfredo I've ever had. It's just so delicious. So I hope you love this one. Switch it up however you like it. Make your Alfredo sauce the way you like it, and enjoy your dinner.